Okay, all right, we'll do a quick walkthrough of all the changes. I'll just do them in the order that they're here. The first one is add the prompted recovery of unsaved changes to RGB effects. So what that means is if I come into my layout here, and I don't know, let's throw something in, throw a line in. And now what I need is I need it to autosave. Well, actually, no, I don't. Hang on. Desktop, demo. Yeah, I do. I need it to auto save, which it will do in just a minute. So we'll come back to that. We'll keep going through some other things. Disable import effects if no sequence is open. What that means is if I go here and I close the sequence, why do I do that? Close sequence. All right, now if I come up here and try to do an import, I can't import it because it's not valid to do an import when you don't have a sequence open. It doesn't make any sense. Then there's the liquid effect. I'm going to leave that to the end because there's a lot of things I could show you in that. So we'll come back to that. Add the ability for the picture effect to play GIF files. What that means, yep. So what that means is if you go up and drop a picture effect down here on the matrix, and we will go and we will choose we'll go in here and we'll choose an animated GIF. We will adjust it so that it's scale to fit. So there he is, and you notice how slow he is, and he's occurring really slowly because there's only 2 frames in this particular animated GIF, and so it spreads it out over the duration of the effect. And previously you could come down and change this frame rate adjust to try and speed him up a bit. Right. But now what I've added is instead this loop animated GIF. And what that does is it causes it to play at the frame rate. Oh, hang on. I need to get it to 1, I think. Right, so now what it's doing is it's playing the animated GIF at the frame rate that the animated GIF itself was at. So if I was to bring that GIF up in Explorer or Chrome or something, that's the frame rate that it would show at. So rather than having to play around with the frame rate adjust to try and get it right, you can just click on the checkbox and it will start playing the GIF at the right pace. I think there's a fix. We'll ignore that. Ignore that. We'll ignore the 64-bit builds because they weren't actually released. The scheduler adds support for animated GIFs. Similar thing. If I come into here and I add a new playlist, I'll add an advanced one because I want to add an image. And you can't add an image if you add a basic one. And again, I get to browse and find an animated GIF. I'll use the default window and we'll make this run for 10 seconds. Okay. And so when we play this, it appears and you can see it shows the animated GIF at the rate that the animated GIF was originally designed to play at. So you can use that if you're going to do some mapping using a Linsen card or something to some P5 panels, etc., and use that as a tune to sign or something. You can do those things. A couple of fixes, we'll ignore those again. Add export or import of matrices, trees, and DMX models. Why is this important? This is important because when you do something like define a DMX model, there's a whole bunch of configuration you need to do here. And you might want to then share that configuration with someone else. So now you can right click and do an export and save that particular DMX thing as an X model file. And it will save it, and then you can import it in. So you can share configurations for particular models of moving headlights, or for your Skulltronics files, your Skulltronic animated heads. I've also added it to matrices. So if you want to go in and configure the matrix with a whole bunch of submodels, or a tree with a bunch of submodels, you can now export those to an X model file, and then you can import them in, and you import them in the way you've always done it. You come here, here's a matrix that I've previously exported, and if I remember rightly, there was some submodels on this which I defined. Yep, so there's a submodel and it's come in as well. So a great way to share things around. If you've defined a particular way of doing something and you want to share it with someone, you can now export it and share it. So while that's now run long enough that there is now a backup of the RGBFX file here, because I haven't saved my changes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start up Task Manager. We'll find xLights, and what we'll do is we will kill it. Okay. So what's happened now is obviously it didn't save my RGBFX file. So if you see here, the date and time is a little bit newer on the X backup file. So when I fire up xLights, it's actually going to detect that. When it starts. Oh, there it is. So what it says is it's found an auto-saved RGBFX file, which seems to be newer than your current RGBFX file. And that happens because I killed xLights without saving it. If I'd closed xLights without saving it and discarded the changes, then it wouldn't have prompted me. In this case, it's only because I killed it abnormally, like the xLights had crashed or something, that it prompts me. And when I click yes, what it will do is it will go and load that backup file instead. And so here's the line which we put in after we created the file. Now, obviously, it's only going back to the last time that this was auto-saved. The other thing that it does is, as it does this recovery, it obviously loses whatever the current, your previous saved RGBFX file was, but before it does this restore, it actually backs everything up again. So you can always go back and change your mind. So that's what that was all about. Fix the render progress bar not progressing properly. You may or may not have noticed this, but if when you render, let's put something that's slow-ish. When you click render all, you get this progress bar showing up. Oh, so quick. You get this progress bar showing up down the bottom here, and previously it wasn't displaying correctly. It wasn't progressing throughout the entire render correctly. It was jumping backwards and forwards, so that's now been fixed. Add the value curve displaying the point under the mouse. Okay, so let's go and grab a value curve. So now as you move your mouse up here, notice that it shows you what the particular value is at that point, even if it's not in a custom curve. So as I move this up, I can come up here with my mouse and I can see what the value is, which corresponds to the value down here, although it won't always correspond to the value down there. If you do something like, we'll go to brightness here and we'll do the value curve. So this varies between 0 and 400. So as you go up towards the top, it shows you the actual brightness value that would actually be applied to the brightness. So that's what that's all about. A couple of fixes. SSE instructions, this is a bit of an experiment. It's not actually active in the release, and it's just going to make xLights a little bit faster. Enhance FPP connector, remember multiple connection details. So when you go into FPP Connect, it used to be you'd go up here and you type in your IP address. Now what it does is it actually remembers the last few that you've connected to. And so you can just go and quickly select one. This is useful if you've got several slaves and you're uploading the sequence data to all the slaves. You don't want to have to keep on typing all the IP addresses in over and over again. That's why that's there. There's a backend enhancement you'll never notice. Multiple model delete. So this was just annoying. Previously, if I had 2 stars and I'd come down here and I selected them both, if I press delete, it now deletes both of them. Previously, it would only delete one of them. Notice it also doesn't prompt me whether I'm really sure I want to delete it, because there's in the sequencer here, I didn't have any effects on the thing. If I went over to the layout and I tried to delete the tree, it would give me a warning because it actually exists in the currently open sequence and it has effects on it. And if I proceed with the delete, it will actually delete all the effects off that tree. So we won't delete it. Add support for the xSchedule web API using WebSockets. You'll see in a minute, because I'll demo the actual web site, and it's a lot faster now because of this use of WebSockets. It's just a faster way for connecting. Let the user decide if the background playlist should play while nothing else is playing. So in the scheduler, there's this concept of a background playlist. And what a background playlist is a playlist that always plays. You'd use it for something like a tune to sign or something like that. And there's now an option here that says run the background playlist when not running a sequence. So even when your schedule's not currently active, because it hasn't started yet, if you check this checkbox, it will continue to run the playlist, the background playlist, all the time, which also means it will send out data all the time. So you'll need to make sure that's on true as well. And then it will send the data out and keep your tune to sign running even when your show's not actually started yet. So that's what that's all about. Spatial color curves to the shimmer effect. So the shimmer effect I've kind of reworked this time around. I was looking at another defect that someone had raised with me, something he said he couldn't do. So let's grab the shimmer effect. Let's go back to my color panel. Let's choose a couple of colors. Red, green, white, red, green, blue. Okay. All right. So there's the shimmer. It's got a duty factor. Let's go down to the nodes here. You can see this is a 50% and it's only going through once. As you increase the number of cycles, you can see the sort of pattern that you get. When you change the duty cycle, is it the duty cycle? Yeah, it doesn't seem to do things as, oh, sorry, that works exactly as expected. Here's what it used to do before. You can see that not everything's the same size. It does cycle through the colors, but because of the duty factor, you get this really weird pattern on the shimmer. So I changed it so that the shimmer's a little bit more regular, which I believe is what the shimmer should really do. But for those people that still want the old version of the shimmer, you can click that checkbox and you'll still get the old shimmer. I've seen some feedback. I think some people are saying that this is a little bit closer to how the LOR shimmer works. It definitely seems to produce a more regular flashing pattern, although I'm not sure the video is doing justice to that. So that's the shimmer changes that are in this one. Model size is matching on the layout panel. So what that's about is when you've got a couple of models here, so we'll select them. If I right click and say resize, I can now say match height, and it's now matched the height of the tree to the height of the single line. So if you've got a bunch of custom models that you've drawn and they're all meant to be the same size, it's just a quick way of choosing. You choose the first one you choose, the one with the red and the green, the blue and the green here. That's the one that's the reference model, and it goes and makes that model the same size. Let's get it back the way it was. So that's what that's about. Missing text controls to fireworks and the strobe effect. Look, to be honest, this is not that interesting. If I grab the fireworks, put them back on the matrix, all this means is that in previous versions, these edit boxes, which you can fine tune, previously weren't there. It was just the sliders. The strobe effect and the fireworks effect were the only effects that did not have these edit boxes, and so I've just gone in and added them in. We've talked about the shimmer. DDP protocol. So what that means is there's now another protocol over here that you can add called DDP. It's an IP type protocol, so you put in an IP address, and then you can define a number of channels. But you can actually define a huge number of channels here, and then what you do is you define between 1 and I think it's about 1,500 1440 channels per packet. Okay, and what that will do is it will send 5,000 packets by sending as many packets of 1,440 channels to this IP address to send all of the data. The difference is that this DDP protocol is a lot lighter in terms of the wasted space in the header. To be honest, it's not a widely supported protocol, but there are some of the Minion controllers, I believe, that do support it. And I must admit, the main reason I implemented it was because I'm actually interested in using this with some of my Arduinos, where the E131 protocol is actually quite a heavy protocol, and this is kind of nice. So that's the DDP protocol, and that's obviously supported by the scheduler as well. Model export to the Minion network effects controller. All that means is that you can now come in for something like a matrix, and when you do an export model, where there's a whole bunch of different types of things that you can export, one now you can export is the Minion network effects controller, which is a bin file, which you then copy onto the SD card, which you insert into the network effects controller, and effectively it's like a Raspberry Pi, right? It's just a standalone show player that's commonly used in commercial installations to run various lighting installations. Fix the video display in XSchedule on OS X. When you saw earlier, I was playing this image thing and these windows pop up. That previously wasn't working on the Macintosh. Stuart had reported it, and that's now been fixed. Custom frame rates. So I've kind of blown past that a few times. When you create, and it's only possible when you're creating a new sequence, instead of 100 milliseconds or 10 frames a second, we've removed it, and there now is this custom button. And in the custom button allows you to specify a custom frame rate. So if you want something that's very close to 30 frames a second, that's going to make it go up, isn't it? You get to decide. You get to decide how long the duration is between it, and you can fine tune it down to get something that's closest to the frame rate that you want. So this goes pretty much, I think it's as low as 15 milliseconds between frames, which is 66 frames a second, which is about the speed of your average first-person shooter video game, all up to I think about a second per frame, so 1 frame per second. Who knows? If you were doing architectural lighting, maybe 1 frame a second would be more than enough for what you want to do. I don't know. Anyway, that's going to create some pretty coarse-grained sequencing. Anyway, so yeah, that you can do that, and you don't have to edit the XML file. Once it's set, however, though, you still can't change it. Triangle waves not moving left and right. Look, I fixed the wave effect in a previous release. The triangle wave wasn't working. Now it is working. But I had forgotten to implement this right to left as opposed to left to right. So I'd only done one of them.
So I'm going to make 3 ham and cheese toasty, and I'm going to use manchego cheese and Spanish jamon serrano. The first step is to put butter in both sides of the bread. Take your time with this.
Okay. So you can see here it's going right to left. Now you can also make it go left to right, which wasn't previously working. All right. Fix some rounding issues when throwing the video timing off. So I've shown this before as well. If you go and create a new sequence using a video file, there's a shortcut way of displaying the video on your matrix. And I just have to go and find a video file. That was the one I wanted. There it is. Okay, so there's a video file done. Okay, so now if you want to put the video, but you only want to show the video at a certain point in the sequence, so you go and you drag the video on here. What you would previously have to do is you'd have to specify down here exactly which video to use, and then you'd have to play with this start time to try and line it all up. Now you don't need to. All you've got to do is click on this checkbox, and what it will do is it'll automatically synchronize the images from the audio file, because it's also a video, and it will automatically be in sync without you having to do anything else. Now, the reason it's on here, because that's actually been there in at least another release, is that the timing wasn't perfect once you got further down the song due to a rounding error. So that's been changed. Okay, so the web interface that you've all seen before. Hang on a second, let me just quickly change something. I'm just going to change my show folder. We'll go there. Yeah, whatever. Okay, so Billy has gone in and he has updated the player. So the user interface is looks a little slicker. It's got pretty much all of the runtime controls that you would normally have if you were using the desktop interface, but this obviously runs on your phone or on a tablet. It's fully adaptable, so it will adapt to the size of the screen. If I make the screen here smaller, it will actively redesign the user interface to try and take advantage of it. That wasn't very successful, was it? Yeah, so you can see how it's reorganized everything so you can still get to everything, tries to keep as much on the screen as it can. You can get to all the playlists. You've got settings that you can change and so forth. You could play a song just by clicking on it. It's got all the capabilities that you could want. The other thing that it has, it's the only time I'll tell you about it, but the version down here, you can barely see it in blue. If you click on it, that's how you get to Tetris. And you probably can't hear it because I'm not sure I plugged my audio in, but it now also has sounds. So it's a much better experience and much easier for people to get to. Now there is some prerequisites, as we've said before, with Tetris. If you want to play it, you must, so because we want to play it on the screen here, I've got to set up a virtual matrix. In reality, you wouldn't do that. but you do have to go and define a matrix that describes your tree or your physical matrix that you want to display it on. In this case, I've had to define both so that you can see it here on the screen. And that leaves me with liquid. Now, I'm conscious that I'm probably going to run out of time here. So how about we stop here? I'll shut it down. I'll post another link and we can come back and we'll spend a bit of time looking at liquid and how to configure it. Okay.